What's going on, everybody? Sean Daniel with Guitar Control here, and today we are going to learn all about inversions for major chords. So make sure to click the link below in the description, because I'm going to chart out the different chord versions that we're going to use, and then we're going to talk about how you can maybe use them as chord replacements or even use them in your solo and lead playing. So, what is an inversion? An inversion is a chord where you do not play the root note first. So, if that doesn't make any sense to you, it will in a second, because we're going to start with the people's chord, G major, all right? So, this voicing of a G major is just one of many, many different ways to play a G major chord. All a G major is a G note, a B note, plus a D note. Doesn't matter how many of each you have, doesn't matter what order they're in, those three notes combine to give us that beautiful G major sound that we know and love. It could be three Gs, it could be like a G, G, B, 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 D, G, G, B if you have like a guitar with like a million strings on it. But when we use this voicing right here, your middle finger's on the 3rd fret of the low E string, pointer finger's on the 2nd fret of the A string, your ring finger could be on the 3rd fret of the high E string, or maybe even the B string if you're crazy, right? So the lowest note in this chord is this 3rd note on the E string, which E, F, F sharp, G. This is our root note, the note that this chord gets its name from. That's why this is a G, and then adding the B's and D's will give you a G major chord. An inversion in music is where that root note is not the first note or the lowest note played. So one example of a G major inversion is where maybe the next note in that chord, remember I said it was a G, B, and a D. What if the B note came first? A B note on the low E string is right here, the 7th fret, okay? So if we wanted to maybe play a 3-note G major chord starting with the 7th fret, we could have right here ring finger on 7E, pointer finger 5A, which is a D, so we have a B, a D, and then the G on the D string, which happens to be the 5th fret there. So 7, 5, 5. We can play them together as a chord, doesn't matter what fingers you use. So I've seen some people kind of even do one of these things where it's like pinky, index, middle. I personally kind of like making a little mini bar chord right here. And again, that can replace a G major chord, or you can see this as an extension into it. Now, one thing I like to do is actually take these and play them as individual notes. So maybe you have a G chord and you're playing it. And then you kind of jump right into that inversion, but you're not even thinking of it as a different chord voicing. You're thinking of it more as like a lead playing thing, okay? So this is just one example. Now we're gonna do 3 more, but I kind of want to do the exact same one in a higher octave, okay? So all you have to do is find a different B, maybe the next B up. And on a guitar, anytime you have the low E string, you can skip an octave like this, because if you do the major scale, all it is down 2 strings, down 2 frets. That'll give you the next note, whatever that is. Again, this is a B. So we can do the same thing as before. Remember, we have 7, E to 5A. That's down a string, 2 frets lower. The same thing here on this B. And then to make up for the B string being offset by 1 fret, that's going to be the next note in our inversion. Right here, you can even hear. Those are the same notes played a pitch higher, okay? So this is actually going to be our second of 4 major chord inversions. In fact, an example of this is Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix. Alright, starts off right there. He's really sliding into a G major inversion, which if you wanted to put a chord behind that, it would be just like that, alright? So this is a perfectly usable, acceptable way to play a G major right here, okay? Or you can just play one kind of note at a time, alright? So for our first inversion, our next inversion of 4, the next one I want to do up here is it's going to be a piece of maybe a bar chord if you've played this one before, rooted on the low E string. But we're going to take just the bottom 3 strings here. In fact, these are the exact same notes as this, but sometimes it can be inconvenient to get all the way up here if you're playing maybe more open chord positions. So the next chord voice we're going to use is going to be this one right here. Your middle finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the G string, which is a B note. Pointer finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B string, which is a D note. And your pointer finger is also pulling double duty again. grabbing the high E string for the G. There's the root note, okay? So maybe if you've never tried bar chords before, you're just getting into it, this is a good way to kind of ease your way into it, because eventually this will be part of a bigger shape that I think is one of the most important shapes in guitar playing, right? So there's just a piece of it that still works as a G major chord because it fulfills the requisite amount of notes that we need to make G major. So, recap. We got the first one, second one, which is the same as, okay? Now we still have one more inversion to go with, all right? And that's gonna be right here, which really, you can also play an octave lower. It's really just the open strings, open D, open G, and open B. So the D note is gonna be the first note in this inversion. In the key of G, G, A, B, C, D, D is the fifth note. So we're leading with the fifth note of the scale and kind of getting this cool little three-note triad chord. A lot of different ways you can play it. Like if you've ever played an A major chord, it's the same thing. However you want to play it. You can play it with your middle finger, ring finger, pinky. You can bar it all with one finger, like a total boss. It doesn't matter which finger it is. However you want to play this, but we're actually going to go to the 12th fret. Again, like I said, the open strings will give you the same three notes, but we want to go a higher pitch up. Because now we've really got all our bases covered in every section of the guitar. We've got the open string, G major, which is really just part of this chord. We have maybe like the bar chord piece of a G major. We have the lower inversion of a G major. We have the next highest one of that, and then kind of rounding it out all the way at the bottom if you're on an acoustic guitar. Again, all this work on electric, just however you kind of want to do it. And then you can start really mixing and matching any of these as a replacement for any G chord in any progression you ever might come across. So maybe it's something like G major to E minor to C major to G. All right, so G, E minor, C, G. Maybe that last time around on a G we can replace with one of those inversions. G major, E minor, C major, the first one we learned, and then maybe a good exercise, go through that progression. Next time around, do the higher one. Back to the beginning. Now we'll go to the third inversion. Okay, so that's one way that you can kind of seamlessly work in all of these different inversions, and you're really familiarizing yourself with so many parts of the neck over one chord that you see in a ton of different songs. The beautiful thing about learning these types of inversions is you're not really reliant on the open strings to play them. That's why I'm kind of focusing on this 12th fret one more than the open string one, because once you learn those, then you can move them all around. These are just movable shapes. Let's say you want to do something in A major, okay? Like we said. There's that A major chord, however you want to play it. Everything we just did works, but since A is two notes higher than G, G, G sharp, A, everything we just learned is going to be in the exact same spot, just two notes higher. So if we want to go from this A, remember that G, the B note, the inversion that we started here on the 7th fret, would just be two notes higher for A. So the 9th fret of the E string, the 7th fret of the A string, and the 7th fret of the D string. You don't even have to know the notes in an A major chord, A, C sharp, and E. Again, it's good to know that stuff, but you don't have to because you just know how these are moving relative to other shapes that maybe you already have memorized. And I think that's an excellent way to get into memorizing really just the fretboard in general, all right? So all the other inversions apply. So the second one, remember we slid into the 9th fret to get that G major. We just slide into the 11th fret now. Really, it's covering a lot of ground, so it's a really cool exercise that you can do just going from this A major into that long slide into the inversion, right? Same thing with the higher one, and also the same thing with this inversion right here. So, any major chord just kind of look at it as an opportunity to try to branch out, because I'm sure you've realized maybe a lot of the songs you like use the same chords all the time, but you want to make them sound a little bit different. So every time you see a major chord, think maybe instead of playing it the same old way, whatever chord it is, be like, all right, this is a good opportunity for me to maybe sneak an inversion, or maybe just sneak in a couple different notes to kind of spice up that playing. Use them as extensions of chords that you already use instead of replacements. But kind of seeing the fretboard as just a roadmap of inversions is a really, really valuable way to kind of just increase your knowledge of being a true guitar boss and just getting around in general. So hopefully you guys learned a little bit. If you have any questions, hit us up in the comments. And again, make sure to click that link. And also make sure to click on any of these other videos that we have around here, because we've got videos from myself, other great instructors on the Guitar Control channel, and basically any questions that you possibly could have will be answered right here. So let us know what you think. Always open your feedback, and we will see you in the next lesson. Thanks a lot.